it's all about the time preference. If people are not incentivized to spend their money today because tomorrow it is worth less, then they're going to be more willing to collect money over time, save up, and make more long-term investments, because now they simply have more time to think about and make prudent and wise decisions about their finances, about investment. If you give everyone the equal amount of resources, humans are so ingenious that they will always find a way to form hierarchies, compete, and assert their dominance and prove themselves. So it's kind of like it comes down to the same thing. So inequality is only natural.
Well, anyway, so the thing with Ethereum, I used to be a huge fan. You know, when Ethereum, before it launched, I installed all of their pre-release software. I tried typing my own weird smart contracts back in, when was it? I think 2014 or 15, probably 15. So I used to be a fan. I was super excited by it. I really was. And over time, I guess, and I think that a lot of people came to this realization, but it's just that some of us were early enough to go through the process. So over time, it just seems like there's nothing useful you can do with it. So because, I like to say that using blockchains to represent real world assets like apartments and securities and so on, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I say this because it was my job to research use cases for those things for about a year, right? Like 3 years ago. I've been there. I'm not just saying things because it sounds fun. I've tried finding those things. We've been working on it for a long time. I really don't believe in it. So it's fine if other people, maybe we were early, maybe we were stupid, maybe, I don't know. But it's fine if other people find something. But as far as I'm concerned, we couldn't find anything for many years. When I said this in 2017, people said, no, you don't understand. Ethereum is going to change the world with ICOs. And now we see that you don't need Ethereum for ICOs, even if you think they're great. And MakerDAO, I think it's similar in the way that, what is MakerDAO really? It's a way for you to take a loan from someone else and collateralize it with ethers. Now, there are a lot of companies who do that. You have, I think one of them is even a sponsor of the show. So you can give them Ether and they're going to give you a loan in dollars back. That's pretty much what they do. So you can definitely do it in a centralized way. And it seems to be more efficient and cheaper. So that seems like a good deal.
But at the design level, when you really, really start to, intuit what is being built here and how it is being built and how Facebook and by virtue of the association, has really put great checks and balances on its power. This is as close as you can get to creating something that can serve ultimately as a public good. So I think there's a huge opportunity. And so if you think about what Libra really is aspiring to do and what the Libra blockchain is empowering the world to do, it is to do for payments and money transfer what the internet did for communication and information sharing.
You have the Winklevoss twins on one shoulder who are trying to be, I see them as trying to be mainstream, conservative, regulated Bitcoin. And then you have Roger and Eric, I guess, who are pulling it towards this libertarian, drugs should be free and we should be able to buy them.
Twitter personalities and ex-Goldman Sachs, hedge fund, Bitcoin capital companies, that are meeting with all these banks and are all these like nouveau type of crypto people. And they won't retweet my show. They won't answer my emails. It's like I'm still considered like blacklisted in the whole Barry Silbert
people
world.
Who I'm willing to hang around with. There's much less variance. So, for example, there are a wide subset of cryptographers who are doing cryptography for military applications, and they have all these DoD grants, and they're off at government agencies doing secret things they're not allowed to talk about. And there are other subsets of the cryptographic community who are like very militant pacifists, or however, maybe you know what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. And they would never work for the government, and they would never accept these grants or anything. And then there are people, and this is more of the Bitcoin kind of people who would call themselves cypherpunks, who are the ones trying to use cryptography to disrupt existing power structures. And these people tend to have very strongly held opinions. They tend to be very anti-patent. They tend to be very anti-centralization, anti-surveillance, anti-censorship, and they have this. A lot of the work that they do in order to affect change against those things that they don't like. But it certainly has been true in the past, and it is still true now to some extent, that there's a fairly small community of people who really understand this technology quite deeply. And every so often, an enormous proportion of those people wind up in the same room or on the same plane or something like that. And in the early days, this would seem to happen quite a bit. And we both wisened up and stopped riding the same planes all the time. And also, it's a much more open, it's a much wider community. It's much easier to get into this stuff. So it would be less of it wouldn't kill Bitcoin if something were to go wrong with one of these rooms full of a small set of people. Absolutely. So what Bitcoin is for me is it's about economic sovereignty. It's about people's ability to interact with each other and to transact with each other without worrying that their credit card company is going to censor them for interacting in the wrong way, without worrying that their bank is selling metadata to advertisers, without worrying that their merchant, who's an even bigger risk, is selling data to advertisers, without worrying that their government will decide one day that they don't like certain activities that they're doing or certain people that they're donating to or certain people who they're interacting with. Right now, basically everywhere in the world, to a lesser or greater extent, people are restricted in their economic activities in these ways. And with the advent of the internet, this has gotten quite a bit worse because so much of the way that we transact with each other now happens over the internet, which until Bitcoin basically requires you use a credit card. You have some company that's putting up that's loaning you the money, and your transactions are basically just sending a request to them to process this transaction. So they wind up having tremendous amounts of data about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and tremendous amounts